Thank you. It's a huge privilege to have been part of CRY for over 20 years. We have an incredible team of staff. We've now got 35 members of staff in our office and over 100 physiologists and doctors who work with CRY throughout the country. And with the support of CRY families in this time, we've transformed the way in which families are supported and managed after a young sudden cardiac death in the NHS. We've had many supporters within this House as well take that forward after a private member's bill in 2005. The CRY Centre for Cardiac Pathology, led by Professor Mary Shepherd, has supported over 1,500 families to help them understand the cause of the sudden death. And this has not only helped other clinical decisions as they've been followed up, but also removed unnecessary suffering, because before this centre was established, it could take up to 2 years to understand the cause of death, and we now do this within 2 weeks. The CRY Centre for Inherited Cardiovascular Conditions and Sports Cardiology with Professor Sanjay Sharma, I think, is an incredible example of what can be done when a non-profit organisation links with the NHS. And at this centre, we're able to see families very quickly, sometimes within a few weeks of a GP referral, and they're able to have all tests conducted on the same day and to be seen together as a family unit. And it's an incredible service that we offer there. 20 years ago, Alison founded CRY because young people were dying suddenly of undiagnosed cardiac conditions. The vast majority of those had no prior symptoms, or when there were symptoms, they were arbitrary and easily dismissed by the medical community. But cardiac screening could prevent those tragedies, and that was the basis of CRY. And as has been said, we've screened almost 80,000 young people now. And out of that 80,000 people, there will have been at least 200 people identified with potentially life-threatening conditions, and a further 700 people who will have been identified with conditions which, although not immediately life-threatening, would have caused problems in their 4th decade of life if not identified and monitored and corrected as and when necessary. The programme is unique. The screening programme is. It's a high level of expertise. Within the cardiology community, most people will now consider Professor Sanjay Sharma as the world expert in sports cardiology, screening, and young sudden cardiac death, and he heads up our screening programme. It's innovative. We are working within the NHS. We have to understand the impact that the screening programme has on the NHS, and we're trying to identify an efficient way of screening large numbers of people in our population. But it's also a programme which is supported. 75% of the people who are tested within this programme will go onto our Test My Heart website, and if they're between the age of 14 and 35, within 3 clicks they could have booked an appointment to have a screening test done, overseen by a specialist. And this has only been possible because of CRY families funding those screenings. It's not just testing though, because this is a relatively new area of medicine and there are many questions, and that's why research is so important. And it's the research we've done which is changing policies and practice. And we've seen this at an elite level in sport, where most elite athletes now are routinely screened, but that's now being passed down into the grassroots of the sports. And I think that's what's extraordinary about the most recent National Screening Committee review, where they did not recommend cardiac screening, but they ignored key research, and that research grossly underestimated the incidence of young sudden cardiac death. And in doing so, they've underestimated the impact of young sudden death, because I'm not aware of any area within policy or practice where 600 young sudden deaths every year would be so easily dismissed. But that is exactly what has happened, and that's why our next campaign is so important. Now we must do all we can to show that behind every statistic is a young person, is a family, is a community that has been ripped apart. And these conditions have a massive impact on society, and that is why we need a national strategy to prevent young sudden cardiac deaths. CRY families are central to everything we've achieved so far. And it is what we are doing right now that will save many thousands of lives in the future. Thank you very much.